morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of Google Cloud Next. My name is Helene Ambiana. I'm the Global Startup and SMB Director here at Google Cloud. I am really excited to be here on stage because I am going to moderate a panel between Amit Zavery, Vice President, General Manager, and Head of Platform at Google Cloud, and Cristóbal Valenzuela, who is a co-founder and CEO of Runway. And for those who don't know about Runway, Runway is a AI research company shaping the era of art, human creativity, and entertainment. So I think that is a big vision, so you are in for a treat. So let's start. Cris, we announced a strategic partnership with Runway and Google Cloud just recently. Could you tell us more about it and how Runway is using Google Cloud? No. Try.
Okay. Improvising. Thank you. Yes. Well, actually, that's a good metaphor to start with the GPU and the cloud capacity and how we guys are working with you. So yeah, really excited to announce our partnership with GCP on our compute side of things and our research side of things. If you know on what we do, we are a research company that's been doing some work around video and image generation and also just multimodal generation. And we've been doing this for the last 5 years or so, so definitely being on it for some time. And one of the most critical things that we're finding ourselves now is making sure that we can continue training large models in the way that we've done it. And so really ramping up an infrastructure that has never been done before, built before, is really critical. And the same way, we have millions of users, so deploying to those millions of users in a real-time basis becomes really important. And so having the support of you guys, of GCP, of having that resource and that capacity and that cloud infrastructure has been critical for us to do both training of models, but also deploying and inference. So excited to continue scaling that.
Wonderful. Amit, yesterday during the keynote, yes, there were a lot of announcements. Yes, from infrastructure to data to AI. When you think about all these announcements and you think of our startup audience, which one do you think are the most relevant to them?
No, I think overall, what you see in the last 8-9 months, huge amount of new capabilities have been added to GCP. We've been investing aggressively. I think that for the startup community, and our goal from the beginning always has been, how do you make it easy for anybody to build applications on top of our platform? And it could be any kind of application. Gen AI turns out to be the next big requirements we see for many startups. And we wanted to make sure we provide easy access, a lot of native capabilities, and an open platform for people to innovate on it, right? So some of the announcements we made yesterday around, say, Model Garden, for example, right, where you can bring any kind of models out there. And as a developer, you can get access to it through the same console, same look and feel, without having to kind of go back and forth with different systems and learn various different environments to build your application. So you have a lot of choices. That's the one big thing we wanted to make sure comes across. And customers and startups can use what they feel is best for their business as well, or for their applications. That, I think, stands out quite a lot. Things we're also doing with enterprise search, where we are able to now find and have pre-trained models, but now you can now do it very specific to your data, which you bring in from your company, and keep it local to you, but also now benefit employees and customers specific to what the security requirements might be. So that's another area which we feel very excited about, because that changes the whole way of finding information. And then the conversational AI on top of that really becomes very powerful, because it's very specific to an individual versus a generic kind of a chatbot which used to be around in the marketplace before. right? And the third thing I think we're doing is also now making sure our partners and startups and customers can also expose their services to marketplace. So we're doing a lot of work to bring them on and make it easy for them to be discovered and make it part of the Google Cloud kind of contracts and everything else. So they don't have to go and build a whole go-to-market motion, hire a lot of salespeople to build a business. So that's another area which we are pretty excited about.
I like to hear this. Thank you. And Cris, coming back to you and thinking back to when you started Runway. Yes, you had a big vision, and your company has had tremendous success. I actually know that you've recently raised a 141 million extension to your Series C, which is huge, absolutely huge. Could you tell us more about when you started your business? Why did you have that vision? And how has technology helped you to get Runway to where it is today?
Okay. Yeah, so it's funny, Runway is now turning 5 years, but I've been working on Runway for almost like 7, 8 years, and it's been in my head for like 10. And so that's actually why I moved here in the first place, just to like spend time understanding what kind of new creative possibilities will AI enable. And at the time when we started building Runway in 2015, 2016, things were very different from where we are now. I mean, none of the things that we might consider like standards and obvious these days were even like around at that time. And so our vision still is, and will continue to be for the time, taking models, cutting-edge models, pushing the boundaries of research in ways that can empower storytelling. And so you can think of Runway as a research company that's been doing research, fundamental research for some time, but really think of Runway as a storytelling company. We're more closer to creatives and artists and filmmakers and the next generation of filmmakers than doing research for the sake of research. And so really what we've seen over the last, I would say, couple of years has been just an exponential acceleration of how to deliver that. Because 10 years ago, the whole idea and the concept that you can generate video with text, if you think about it for a minute, like now we might be used to it and normalized, but 5 years ago, that was like in the realm of like magic. Like you're generating a movie and an image with a text prompt. Now it's like, oh, we just actually released on our newest model camera control. So you can generate videos and kind of like control or define the movement of your videos, which is such a specific thing after the fact that you can, again, generate video with words. But again, it's we don't tend to focus that much on where things are. It's more about how fast things are progressing. And so technology for us is progressing really fast, and our vision continues to be storytelling more than anything else.
So when you started, and you said it was about 10 years ago, and you already had AI in mind, but with the purpose clearly around the creativity, the art industry, yes? And you talked about normalization, yes. Do you think that this move and craze around generative AI that we are experiencing now will normalize at some point? And if so, maybe do you have a time frame in mind?
Yeah, predicting the future is hard. I think we've definitely normalized it. I think you can jump into a cab in like New York and the taxi driver will speak about like image and text generation, which is like, I think astonishing. I call that the mom threshold. We've crossed the threshold where my mom finally understands what I do. Yes. Because she's used it. I think normalizing technology becomes really important in the sense that it allows you to be exposed to it and understand it. Like, again, thinking and understanding the idea of image generation 5 years ago was very hard because the mental models that we have to build around it were not there yet. And only by us being exposed to it, we were understanding the limitations, but also the challenges around it. I think we're entering that phase as really starting to understand that this is transformative. This is going to be widely used in all industries across the spectrum. And what we do now is to normalize and to get more people exposed to it. And I think that's the history of major technological like adoptions is the moment where like cameras, for example, in the 1800s became not only the realm of scientific innovation, but of artists, and that was how cinema was born. And so for us, really about something similar. It's like we've done the research. Now's the time to get this into the hands of more people so we can all start thinking about what's next.
That's amazing. Thank you. Amit, I'll turn to you and thinking about what Cris should be working now. Yes. Thinking about what Cris just said about how AI has been powering his business. With your role at Google Cloud and thinking about the way you run your business, your teams, the productivity and everything, how have you been thinking about applying generative AI to the day-to-day of your business?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. In terms of generative AI, I think it's changing how we operate. I mean, it's pretty much touches every part of business now, right? All the way from, of course, development. We're doing a lot of things, as you saw yesterday, around the Duet AI, using that as a co-development tool around a developer instead of having them to start everything from scratch. But we're also seeing that in the productivity side as well with what we're doing in the workspace, where you can create a lot of content and the emails and everything else. But beyond that, just running the business itself is impacting how we do marketing. So a lot of the finding of information on the website, finding pricing information, finding product details, getting kind of understanding of what customers are saying about it, can be easily now done through Gen AI as well. So if you look at what's going to happen with the cloud.google.com, you start seeing a lot of these things surfacing. Yeah. We're doing something similar in our support systems as well. Like a lot of times, customers find it frustrating where they can't find the information or can't search the documentation properly. We have a lot of documentation, but it was never easy to summarize or easy to find very pertinent, relevant information to your own individual cases. So now we're able to tie that through Gen AI, create those, find you that information, and then kind of connect you to an agent who can assist you if you can't really get all the help through the documentation or the other support data out there. So we're seeing changing there. Finance is same thing. There's a huge amount of ability to understand customer preference to buy, what they're using, what kind of other things they might be interested in, how we can move them along. We're doing that in the console as well in the Google Cloud, where we can populate with other relevant products to help them understand, hey, if you use these 2-3 things together, you will get this kind of application built easily. We're doing that with our low-code tool as well, where you can now do natural language prompt and create an application on the fly without, again, having to write any code. So it's touching everything. And over the last year and a half, I mean, if you see every team is now adopting Gen AI as part of the development work, but also the businesses are now starting to use that. And they sometimes will not realize it's Gen AI, right? Because for them, it's a better outcome, and it doesn't matter how it happened. So it's starting to become very pervasive. It's becoming kind of core capabilities, just like cloud had become 10 years ago, where customers don't care who the infrastructure provider, but I see the value of having it hosted and running in the cloud. Similarly, I think Gen AI is going to change a lot of stuff. And there's still, this is just scratching the surface. I expect more and more innovative use cases to continue to come up. And it will touch, I think, every business and every kind of application.
As I'm in marketing, it's also a daily experience in seeing how can we use generative AI in our marketing, in our creatives, in our processes, to get closer and better to the customers. Yes. So talking about customers, I want to continue on the topic of generative AI, but think about its impact on society and on customers, on communities. So I really like what you said, Cris, earlier about your company being research with a purpose. And I know that you're also applying AI with a purpose. So there are lots of conversation about the collaboration, yes, or co-collaboration between humans and AI. And I know your business is doing quite a lot with that. So can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, definitely. It's something we've been thinking a lot lately as models have gotten even more mainstream. I think that it's hard to predict the future, but I think going back to the past can always help us inform, I think, how this future might shape. I think history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. That's a common saying. So if you look back at, like, for example, the invention of the camera 150 years ago, really the most positive outcomes happen from that human artifact collaboration, right? At the time, a lot of people thought photography was going to end art and that painting will disappear and that we wouldn't need artists anymore because you just press a button and you're done. And the truth is that, as we all know, that didn't happen. Art didn't die. On the contrary, art was augmented, art was changed. And painting was actually very influenced by photography. And photography was influenced by painting. And cinema was influencing all of it. I think this is somehow very similar, where it's not an obsession that we should have around models themselves. Like, models should serve a purpose, should have a business purpose, creative purpose, and technology has always been in the function of like people. And so when you start flipping that, you start asking different questions, which is, well, how are you going to use it? How controllable? How flexible? For what? I think what we're seeing right now is a lot of interest in the models themselves, because the technology is so new, just so radically different from anything we've seen in the past. But at some point, I really hope we'll get to this point very soon, we will all collectively stop referring to AI, and we'll just refer to it as the infrastructure of the world. It's what we do. When we speak about doing a wire transfer and transferring funds between two banks, no one says, I'm going to log into the internet so I can transfer funds via the internet and a web browser, right? You just say it and everyone knows. This is going to be very similar. So I want to make a movie, and you're probably going to be using a lot of like AI, but you don't have to specify it because it's just part of your kind of like arsenal of tools. And so I think I'm looking forward to the moment where we're going to stop referring to it as AI tools and AI generated, and just as tools, like any other tool.
I'll turn the same question to Amit, and thinking about Google's stance on responsible AI. Yes, can you share a bit more with the audience what we mean by that and how we bring that to life in practice?
Yeah, I think what I appreciate at Google, for sure, is that we're very thoughtful about what we should be doing with AI, right? We put in a lot of effort and thinking behind how we expose some of this very powerful technology and make sure it's usable and useful to the humankind, instead of being just available there and kind of can create a lot of other issues. So we have very well-defined principles in terms of what AI can be used for, and we've been pretty open about it for many years. So AI is not new for Google. I mean, Google has been investing in this space for many, many years, and we know what the power it brings and the issues it can create if it's not used properly. So with the responsible AI, I think you heard from Sundar yesterday, for example, and you see that on a regular basis, we want to make sure and how that is, who can use it, how they can use it, what kind of applications can we build, what kind of data can be exposed, making sure none of the malicious stuff can be used out of it and exposed to end users and create proper problem in the society. So we continue to kind of make sure the principles we have defined are being delivered and we adhere to it. There's a lot of this push to productize everything very quickly. There's a huge amount of pressure in the market to say, hey, if you have all these things and look at other vendors, why are you guys not offering all the things instantly? And we have a lot of good products, but I think there is real rules and conditions we put in the development teams as well inside Google to make sure they're thoughtful at the approach they put in. And we'll continue to make sure that it is a responsible way for usage, and then we will partner with the community and make sure that we can take advantage of this, but also prevent any kind of wrong usage out of it.
Thank you, Amit. And still on the impact on society, Cris, I know that Runway takes existing technologies that are common in the data science and engineering world, and puts them at the center of a more creative, environment. And that has big implications, yes, in the creator economy. So how are you opening up to the communities this work?
I think similar to the last point, again, is on opening the communities and being responsible. I think as model builders and researchers in the space, we have a responsibility to make sure that this gets not only into the hands of the research community and the engineering community, but also the artistic community. And sometimes those worlds don't collide or don't merge as much as we would like to, because incentives might be different, because exposure to technology is different. And so it really takes a further step for us to go there as a technology company. An example of this, we have two programs that are a great representation of how we can cross the line between and strike a great connection between art and science. We've hosted an AI film festival in New York and in SF. And that's a celebration of filmmakers doing films with AI. But the key thing is that we're not highlighting the models, the technology, we're highlighting and celebrating the people behind it. And so there's no discussion around large model training and inference or deployments. This is a conversation around, look at the movie. It's just great. Tell us more about it. We're actually, by the way, if you're interested, we're organizing a second version of the film festival. It's going to happen now in LA and New York. We have thousands of submissions, a well-known panel. We had Darren Aronofsky come in last time and speak about how his creative process has been augmented with AI. And so that's one of the examples. And the other one is we have a division inside Runway called Runway Studios, which holds purposes. The entire purpose of that team is to produce and help creatives use this new kind of camera. So think about it as this: AI is a new kind of camera, and not only the camera manufacturers need to be able to use it, but everyone else who wants to tell a story should be able to know how to use the camera. And so training and improving and customizing the camera, going into film schools and design schools to teach it, going into all over the world. I'm from Chile, and I would have loved to study film early on. I never had access to a camera or a film school. So this is for me the dream I've always had in my head. And so we're also doing that, going to multiple places in the world and giving this camera to more people.
Thank you. When I look at the audience, we have small businesses, large enterprises, startups at different stages, yes, of development. And usually when you're in the business world or you want to start a business, you ask lots of advice, you read lots of books, advice from investors, advice, top 10 tips to start. So Amit is also an angel investor, yes, and you're a founder. How could you help this audience, whether it's top 10 tips, pitfalls to avoid? What would you share with the audience? Starting with you, Cris.
So we have 2 hours, right? Well, that's a hard one. So my belief after maybe you want to share more of your experience as an angel investor, but I truly believe that the best way to do anything and to learn how to do anything is just to do it. You can read a lot of books and you can read a lot of recipes and tips and tricks, but nothing will surpass the fact of just doing it. Even if you fail, even if you don't if it doesn't work, that you're gonna learn so much about just doing it or trying to do it. And so that was kind of my assumption with founding a company and starting a fundraising, which is I've never done it, so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna fail the first time, but then I'm gonna do it again. And I was oh, I've learned something. And then you do it 1,000 times. You're you can learn more. And so, yeah, not necessarily a fan of tips or recipes, more of a fan of just figure it out. Just go and it's gonna, if you are scared, that's great. The fact that you're scared about it means that there's something there. Yeah. I don't know if you...
Try and error and resilience.
Exactly, yes.
Perfect.
No, I think it's an important point. The resiliency part is definitely important because as the founders, usually the ones I invest in, I always look at the founders and the team, the core team, and how willing they are to kind of work hard, but also be able to kind of understand changes and be able to continue evolving. They cannot come with one fixed mind and say, this is it, I don't care what the customers say or anything like that. So the founding team with a good technical knowledge and the ability to kind of continue pushing the envelope and working and be aggressive about getting it done, right? I think you have to have that kind of feel for it. Otherwise, it's very hard to be I have done one startup and I would never do it again. But there are people who are very good at it, and when you meet them that they will work and get it done. Right, and you can figure out the interest and the depth they have by having a lot of those conversations, right? So as a startup, when you're thinking about it, you better have some interest in that area, willing to kind of learn from multiple conversations and continue networking and building that depth in the area so that you can be out innovating anybody else and really solving a problem that everybody wants to pay you for. Right. The other thing I always try to look at when I look at startups is that, do they have monetization way, right? Are they going to make money? A lot of times there are a lot of great ideas, but if you're not going to be able to now really have somebody willing to pay for it, because that's really a good test. Is it somebody willing to pay for what you build? And if they are, that means there is a business to be had, and then it becomes more of how you really build the right product and then scale, and that's all execution after that. So really execution mindset with the idea of what the needs are, and be willing to kind of be resilient, as you pointed out.